3, 2, 1. Okay, just checking in if we're on. Good evening, everyone. Just checking. I'm here with Kelsey, so just asking quickly who is on. Magda is going to be our moderator. Just wanted to make sure that she's going to give me a thumbs up that we are on. Let me just check quickly. So I'm just going to be while people are joining. Today we're going to be broadcasting Facebook Live, and also we're going to have also a conference line that's going to be open, and Magda's going to be moderating on that one. Just one more check. Okay, so we are on, and then just for the viewers today, so what I want to say, welcome again. As you know, I've been presenting to you regarding, since this CARE Act has come out, how the stimulus check is going to work, the SBA loan, and unemployment. So we're going to be focusing more, touching up on those subjects today. I have a guest, Kelsey. She's going to introduce herself very shortly. So welcome again. And then for those of you who are following us on the conference line, there will be some questions that we may not be able to get to today. But once you submit your questions, we will address them as we go on by sending an email, or we're going to have a follow-up. So let me just get started. Kelsey, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and once again, thank you very much for taking your time to be here. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So my name is Kelsey Perkins, and I am Congresswoman Catherine Clark's district director. The Congresswoman serves the 5th Congressional District of Massachusetts. And that is a district that covers 24 cities and towns north and west of Boston, going from Revere and Winthrop in the east, through Woburn, Cambridge, Waltham, all the way out west to Framingham, Southborough, and Ashland. And so my role as district director is really to manage our constituent services team. We're here to help you and try to help you navigate some of these federal relief programs, not only now, but we also, in pre-coronavirus times, we help constituents with all kinds of federal casework, whether it's Social Security benefits, veterans benefits, immigration casework, and try to help our constituents get answers from federal agencies. So we're a small team, and right now our physical office, which is located, we have 2 of them. We have one in Malden and one in downtown Framingham. Our physical offices are closed, but we are all working full-time, working remotely, answering voicemails, answering emails. So we're still here. We're very much working overtime to try to help constituents during what I know is a really, really difficult time for a lot of people.
Thank you. I was going to ask you how you adjusting all of you. This is completely new for all of us, like working remotely, and especially for the constituents, like you said, who are used and coming in and trying to do face-to-face. This has been completely something different that all of us have to get adjusted to. So we'll get into it. So for the response of the coronavirus, there has been called a Relief Fund called CARES Act. So if you can tell us a little bit briefly why it was passed and what does it cover?
Sure. So this is actually the 3rd package that Congress has passed in response to the pandemic. The first was an emergency appropriations aimed at funding for testing and healthcare providers. The second was aimed at assistance for families and ensuring paid leave, medical leave, as well as family leave for workers who, for whom it's not safe to be going into work right now. And this third package was really aimed at getting direct relief to small businesses and families and individuals who either, their businesses are closed, they've lost hours of work, they've been furloughed or laid off. And the three main buckets, which you referenced earlier, are first, the direct economic impact payments. Those are those $1,200 or $2,400 checks, $500 for dependents that have started coming out from the IRS. The second is the expanded unemployment benefits, both to increase the benefits that folks are eligible for, as well as expanding eligibility to folks who are not traditionally eligible through their state's unemployment systems. That's largely 1099 workers, independent contractors, folks that we think of as being in the gig economy. And then also expanding duration of those benefits, because we know this is not going to be a quickly resolved financial crisis. And then the third bucket is the small business assistance, primarily two programs. One is the economic injury disaster loans, which is a program that has existed prior to coronavirus, but that the state has been declared disaster to be eligible for applying for these loans during this time. And there's been increased funding to that. And then there's the newly created Paycheck Protection Program, which is, like I said, a newly created program that is administered by the SBA, but really dispersed through individual lenders. And that is aimed at keeping workers on payroll during this, during a time when businesses have to be closed, to keep people on payroll and be able to pay their bills.
Okay, thank you, Kelsey. So just like Kelsey described, there is three-part. We have covered in the last show mainly about the stimulus check, the $1,200, who qualifies for it. Today we're going to divulge a little bit more on the SBA loan and an employment benefit. We're going to talk a little bit more on that one. But as a touch-up, just a refresher, because we have done a whole hour show on the stimulus check. If you can just say who qualifies with the $1,200, and then this is a one-time check payment. Yeah. And if you can just briefly on that one, please.
Yeah, so it is, each adult is eligible for $1,200 one-time payment. It's $2,400 for joint filers, and like I said, $500 for qualifying children or dependents. The income limits for those payments are $75,000 a year for individual filers, $150,000 for joint filers, and $112,500 for a head of household filer. So once you hit those thresholds, the amount of the payment is going to go down up to, for individuals, once you reach $99,000 annual salary, then you are disqualified for any payment at that point. And those have started going out as of about 10 days ago. And the IRS began processing payments for anybody that they had direct deposit information for. So anybody who has filed taxes as of 2018 or 2019 with direct deposit information, the IRS was able to start processing those payments. They also have launched, as of last week, a couple of online portals. First, for non-filers, for folks who do not have to file taxes or have not filed taxes in 2018 or 2019, where you can enter your payment information so that you can get that check through direct deposit. And there's also a portal to track payments. So it's called the Get My Payment portal, and you can track the status of your economic impact payment.
Okay, thank you. Briefly on those again, someone who never filed or was not required to file because of the income limitation, what is it they have to do in order to get the $1,200?
Yep. So for certain non-filers, and that includes Social Security beneficiaries or veterans, you do not have to do anything. If the federal government has your direct deposit information already through one of those benefit programs, you should not have to do anything. But if the federal government does not have your direct deposit information, there's a portal on the IRS website, which is just irs.gov. And that is the portal is for non-filers, and you can register for your rebate payment, and you would provide the IRS your adjusted gross income, number of dependents, marital status, and banking information so that you can get that direct deposit.
Okay, and that's on irs.gov and not irs.com. A lot of people make sometimes a mistake of that.
That's right.
Yeah,
and that's a great flag. So just for all of these things, make sure that you are dealing with the .gov verified U.S. government website, because I do know that, in any time of crisis, there are going to be folks taking advantage, and a lot of scams out there. So do look for that .gov website.
Yeah, thank you. Just like Kelsey said, I want to emphasize on that, the IRS will never call you. They're always going to be sending letters. So if you get a phone call, I myself have received so many phone calls saying that let me help you with to get the stimulus check. So please do not accept any phone calls. And then only deal with irs.gov, not any other info or .com or anything that's going to come up. Okay,
that's right. If anybody ever has any question about if you're hearing from a federal agency and you're just not sure if it is legitimate, please feel free to reach out to our office, and we'd be happy to help verify that for you.
Okay. At the end, also we posting information how to reach the Congresswoman and then the office for any kind of help or any kind of question that people may have. One question on the stimulus check, and then we'll move on to the next questions. If someone says, let's say if someone filed the 2018 but did not file 2019 and have received the $1,200, but they had a new baby in 2019, that means they did not receive the $500. Once they file 2019, will they be able to get the $500?
That is, I believe, something you can update through the portal that I just mentioned. Okay. I believe, and this especially relates to Social Security beneficiaries who do have dependents. So I believe you can register those dependents through that non-filers system that I mentioned.
Correct. So just like Kelsey mentioned, if you don't have a bank information, if your address has changed, those will be the place where you can go on and update. And then someone was asking, do we get it only through direct deposit? no, you'll be getting it also through a check, but that may take a little bit longer. If it's already deposit, it's going to be fine.
And the IRS has said that they aim to get those paper checks out in reverse income order. So it is going to be taking a little bit longer, but they are making a concerted effort to make sure that the folks who need it the most, our lowest income filers, get it first. So unfortunately, it is just going to take a little bit longer for those paper checks.
Correct. Okay, thank you very much. So now we're going to jump into unemployment. We're going to have plenty of questions on that one. Yeah. So
I want to just give the caveat that I may not have all the answers for specific unemployment case questions, but our office, again, can be a resource in helping getting you connected with DUA to ask those questions.
Okay. So on this one, I think we're going to break it down a little bit so that there is a traditional unemployment application, and then there is what's related to COVID application. So if you can describe a little bit the differences of the two, please.
Yeah. So the regular state unemployment system, that's through DUA, the Department of Unemployment Assistance, is workers, traditionally W-2 workers who pay into the unemployment insurance system and are eligible for 26 weeks of earned benefits. Typically, those benefits replace about 40% of a worker's wages. But this bill, the CARES Act, did expand those benefits to an extra $600 a week, which just got rolled out about a week ago, or 2 weeks ago. And so you should be getting your existing benefits with $600 extra a week on top of that. And that should, for many workers, add up to about 100% wage replacement. So that's the traditional system for W-2 workers. The CARES Act also expanded eligibility for unemployment benefits for non-traditional claimants. As I mentioned, that's independent contractors, 1099 workers, self-employed individuals, folks in the gig economy, and individuals who were supposed to start work and were unable to as a result of COVID-19. So that is an entirely separate and new system. It's called Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, PUA. And like I said, it's not linked to the DUA system. So it's two separate applications. And I can go into details on what you need in order to sort of verify your income through that system, but it's at mass.gov/PUA. They have all of the details there, and the online portal for applying for benefits. And just like DUA, you will also be eligible for that extra $600 a week. And then the last part that I'll mention, which in Massachusetts has not been implemented yet, is that the CARES Act expanded the duration of eligibility from, in Massachusetts, currently the maximum benefit you can get is 26 weeks or 6 months. And as a result of the CARES Act, the pandemic emergency unemployment compensation will allow for an additional 13 weeks. So the maximum benefit will be 39 weeks. The state is working as quickly as possible to stand up that extension of benefits. So right now, if you have exhausted your 26 weeks, unfortunately, there's a little bit of a lag in when you're going to be able to keep getting benefits. But as soon as that is available, it will be retroactive to, I believe, back to March 29th.
Yep.
And I'll verify that.
Yeah, thanks, March 29th. That's good. So just to clarify, we know we have some viewers from out of state, from outside of Massachusetts. There are some federal rules that applies for everyone, but when Chelsea mentions mass.gov, it's a little bit different for your state. Everyone that's watching, just please make sure to watch on that. So we're going to be referring a lot to the Massachusetts rule. So when she mentions that, but the same website, each state has their own website to address unemployment. So please make sure to consider that.
That's right. And I do want to just give the caveat that not every state has set it up as two completely separate systems. So some states do have the traditional unemployment and the new expanded, PUA linked, but Massachusetts does not. So they are two separate systems in Massachusetts.
Okay. So a little bit of clarification on that again. So if I can ask, because a lot of people are hearing unemployment, let's say for the gig workers, like we say, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, anybody that did not qualify previously in the traditional unemployment, they should not be going in to apply into the traditional unemployment. They should be going to the specific website, correct?
That's correct. Because unless you have more than $5,100 in earned W-2 wages from 2019, your application through the DUA system will be rejected, and it's just going to delay the process for you. So the PUA system was rolled out just 2 days ago, Monday. So you can go through that system now. I know people were waiting for a long time, and I know that there was a lot of confusion about whether you should start the process with DUA so that you were in the pipeline. I hope that people did hold off so that now they can apply through the PUA system and get those benefits.
Okay. So a little bit of clarification on that again. If someone had already applied in the DOA and got rejected, they should not try to do an appeal process in the DOA. They should just go and start a new application into the.
That's right.
Okay, good. So for someone like Uber drivers, Lyft drivers that they don't get a W-2, like you said, what is income for them? Like, because sometimes they may have worked only part-time, they may have worked full-time. So when they enter their income, are they putting what they did the whole year, or how does it break down compared to?
So the PUA system asks for your wage records for 2019, including 1099 forms, pay stubs, bank statements, anything to prove that income.
Okay, so that's good. So we're going to go on again in the clarification. So someone like Uber driver, Lyft drivers, like gig workers, they will get, depending on how much money they made and depending what state they're in, they'll get a percentage of that. So if someone gets, let's say, roughly $500 a week based on the income that they did, there is a $600 additional that's going to kick in.
That's
so
right.
If we can break it down a little bit, so the $500 that they're getting in based on their income, that's going to go for the 26 weeks. And then the $600 is going to go only for about 4 months, I believe. So if you can break a little bit on that, please.
Yeah, so the extra $600 is only going through July 31st at this point. That doesn't mean that future legislation can't extend that, but as of now, the funds that were appropriated for that purpose only go through July 31st.
Okay. When we talk about retroactive, I think we're trying to come up with the date. So it's like March 31st, or is it March? We'll get that exact date, I guess.
So the pandemic unemployment compensation, I believe, is retroactive to March 29th.
March 29th. Okay. So additional to whoever qualified, and then if they have less income, and then for whatever reason they didn't have any income, can someone go in and apply only with the $600?
I'm sorry, what?
Let's say if someone did not have a work, let's say if it didn't work for whatever reason, they were out of job for the last year, can they right now qualify for the $600 unemployment by applying?
If they have been out of work but not collecting unemployment?
Correct.
So you would have to demonstrate wages in the year 2019. So if you haven't been working at all, I don't know, but if, like I said, if you were supposed to start working, you have limited work history, but you were supposed to start working during this time, you may be eligible through the PUA system now.
Okay. So that's also for anybody who's W-2?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So just a little bit specific.
The general rule is if you have W-2 wages in the system, you should apply through DUA.
Okay. So just a little bit specific, we might not be able to get all the answers right now, but someone who did not work, let's say in 2019, but started working in 2020, and worked only, let's say, for about a month, doesn't have enough income to really qualify sometimes into the regular traditional unemployment, but it's a W-2 worker, went in and applied and got denied from the traditional unemployment. Would that person go in and apply now into the new COVID PUA?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So that's good. That was one of the questions.
And I believe that the DUA system should make that suggestion to you. If your application is denied through the DUA system, it should come up on the screen like you may be eligible through the PUA system. So I believe that is the case.
Okay, so that's good. Just to wrap it up a little bit, anybody who's getting a denial letter from the regular traditional unemployment, should they be appealing it directly through the DUA, or should they ignore that and then just apply into the new website?
That depends. If you are supposed to be eligible through the traditional system, then you should appeal through the traditional system. And again, that's if you have over $5,100 of wages in 2019 on your W-2, then you are likely going to have to go through the DUA system. So if you were rejected through that system, then you should appeal through that system. Otherwise, you should explore the PUA system.
Okay, that's good. Let me just look at one more questions and then we're going to go to the next one. This is what we're finding. So I think let's jump in with unemployment, the 13 weeks extension. Someone who exhausted their fund, let's say they were collecting until could be end of January, they were collecting $500 a week again as an example, and they no longer were receiving, and now the pandemic hit. Can that person go back and reapply again into their traditional and then be able to be eligible again to receive the $500 what they were stopped plus the $600?
Yes. So like I said, this has not actually been implemented in Massachusetts yet. So if you have exhausted your benefits, you should not apply at this time. And keep an eye on the DUA website, because they will update that when the PEUC, which is the extra 13 weeks, when that is implemented. But if there is a gap, so if you have been unemployed, you've exhausted your benefits, and you're not able to apply, but then say, a couple weeks later, this extension does get implemented in the state, you are eligible for retroactive pay for those weeks in between when you exhausted your benefits and when the extra benefits start. So that is retroactive all the way back to February 2nd. So if you exhausted your benefits in January, you still, are obviously not able to find work because much of the economy is shut down. All the way back to February 2nd, you can be compensated for that time. And the extra $600, obviously, again, would start as of March 29th.
Okay. Just to reiterate a little bit, the money that you receive through unemployment is taxable. So you have to make sure that to pay taxes on that, you can do it while you're receiving it. There is a choice where you can pay the taxes at that time. But the stimulus check that we received, the $1,200, you don't have to pay tax on that, correct?
Correct. And that's a great point about the unemployment benefits being taxable. They are also it can be disqualifying. They count as, because the unemployment benefits count as taxable income. For some folks, it may put you over income thresholds for other public benefits. So that's just something to keep an eye on if that is a situation that you're in, if you're close to one of those limits.
Is the $600 also taxable?
Yes, it's all part of your unemployment benefit.
Okay. So now we can come back later on if we have time on unemployment or the stimulus check, but let's move on to the Triple P or SBA loan that is part of the CARES Act. I know it's going to be a little bit controversial right now because the funding has run out, and then there is one, I think in the House, and then still waiting. So if you can a little bit give us an update on that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, there are kind of two main programs for small business assistance. One is the economic injury disaster loans, or EIDL loans, which can be up to $2 million. The interest rate is 3.75%. And the CARES Act did appropriate funds toward a $10,000 cash advance as part of that loan program. So that and the intention of that was to get money in people's pockets and infused into payroll costs quickly. And that $10,000 functions as a grant, so it does not need to be paid back. But the larger EIDL loan would need to be paid back, but over a long period of time. And those are administered directly through the SBA. The second program is, like I mentioned, the new Paycheck Protection Program, which are forgivable loans. They can be up to $10 million, but it's calculated as basically 2.5 times your monthly payroll costs. And 75% of the loan would need to go toward retaining your full-time employment. So that has to go to payroll costs. But 25% of it can be used for other costs like rent or mortgage payments. And that can be forgiven if the money goes towards those costs over the course of 8 weeks from the time the loan is administered. Unfortunately, we saw both of those programs being the demand being far exceeding the supply and the funding. So there were funding lapses for both of those programs last week, which is why both the House and Senate have been moving quickly to try to appropriate more funds for those programs. And the details are basically $310 million additional for the Paycheck Protection Program, and $60 million, billion. And 60 of that is going to be earmarked for small community lenders. And the goal of that earmark is to make sure that these loans get into the hands of really the mom and pop shops that they were intended for, because unfortunately we saw that with the first round of funding, some of the bigger small businesses who have strong, history lending relationships with some of the bigger banks were able to get processed first, and just they had those relationships existing already, so they were able to navigate this very quickly, and so therefore a lot of businesses that this was intended to help kind of didn't get to access it as quickly. So that's the goal of this next round of funding, and we're hopeful that this will pass tomorrow in the House.
Okay. So in the hope that's going to get passed, this is going to be pending if it get passed so that we can answer it a little bit better. This is sometimes it feels like it's on first come, first serve basis. So if you apply, whoever applies first will get it, and it's not who needs it more.
So that's what I was just kind of referencing is why they did earmark $60 billion of this additional funding for smaller lending facilities that have relationships with some of the smaller businesses, and hopefully we'll be able to get the money into those hands.
Okay. I know we cannot speculate or talk a little bit more on this, but if we can ask you, because there are some businesses that did not qualify from this who had more than 500 employees, or there was a talk on the news by the president saying Harvard received this and they have to pay back, so that we don't confuse any of those information. It looks like Harvard did not get it from the PPP, but a different kind of fund.
Right, that's correct. No, it was not an SBA loan. This was part of the education funding that most colleges and universities got some funding, and it was aimed at getting aid to students, tuition repayment, refunds, housing costs. So it was not through any SBA program.
Okay, but there are some businesses who should not have qualified over this who had received it, and then they are being asked to pay back, or are they doing it on their own? Call it good faith, I guess.
Yeah, I have heard of some larger chains who are giving back the funds voluntarily.
Okay, thank you on that. So in order we talk about a lot about forgivable, non-forgivable loan. So if we can describe it, for someone could take up to $10 million, and it's possible all 100% of it can be forgivable. In order to do that, what are the steps someone has to follow?
Yeah, so it is forgivable if the total amount of the loan is used for payroll costs, mortgage, interest, rent, utilities, and other qualifying payments for the 8 weeks after getting the loan. If if you do not maintain your staff and payroll, your loan forgiveness will be reduced. So let's see, the IRS fact sheet says that if you decrease salaries and wages by more than 25% for any employee that made less than $100,000 annualized in 2019, your loan forgiveness will be reduced. And I know for a lot of businesses, they have furloughed or laid off workers already, and they're wondering, can I rehire in order to qualify? And the answer is yes. The deadline for that would be June 30th to get back to full-time employment and salary levels. But I know that that's something we've heard about a lot is, can I still qualify if, I've already had to lay off staff, and yes, the full-time employment would just have to be restored by June 30th.
Okay. And they 100% can be forgivable if they maintain the same kind of payroll that they had before the pandemic. But if they bring, let's say, only 50% of that payroll, only 50% will be forgivable, and the 50% will have to be paid back.
Yes, I don't know exactly how much the loan forgiveness will be reduced if you don't maintain full payroll. The other piece of it is that only 25% of the loan amount can be used for non-payroll costs. So those other qualifying costs like rent, utilities, mortgage interests, that can only comprise 25% of the loan amount. 75% needs to go to payroll.
Okay, so that's good. When we talk, so this is not something, has to be a business that has been functioning before. It's not a new lease or anything that can be taken out from March.
Right. The mortgage obligations have to be established before February 15th. February 15th is basically the magic date. So the rental agreement would have to be enforced by February 15th. Utilities have to be in service by February 15th. That's kind of the magic date for that.
Yep. So it's not for new businesses that just started and then has to show before February 15th. Just wanted to make sure to clarify that. It's a little bit specific, but if we can touch up, because it's going to be specific to certain people, are there any benefits to apply the EIDL over an employment benefit or for a self-employed person?
I can't really give advice on that. I will say, obviously, right now there's a funding lapse with the EIDL program. So, hopefully we can get that back up and running shortly. But right now, the SBA is not accepting new EIDL applications. My understanding is that if you did apply prior to the funding lapse, that your application is still in the pipeline. And once additional funding is appropriated, they will start processing those loans again. You don't have to reapply. But, obviously, we're kind of in limbo right now.
Yes. Okay. So let me touch up and then we can circle back, even though we've been going in some kind of order, to answer some of questions from unemployment or the stimulus check, a little bit to touch up. So if we can talk a little bit of what action is needed and no action is needed for example, for the stimulus check, if someone who has applied for 2019 or 2018, there is no action needed.
Correct. If the IRS has your correct information, nothing's changed, then you should automatically get your check. But you can check that online through the Get My Payment portal.
Correct. And then again, another no action needed. Someone applied for unemployment through the traditional or through the new system. they are receiving their benefit based on their income. They don't have to do anything extra for the $600 to kick in.
Correct. Obviously, for both of these benefits, you have to certify each week that you remain unemployed. Although I will note that the job search requirement has been waived as a provision of the CARES Act, because obviously you can't be looking for work if your place of business is closed because of and largely your industry has been shuttered because of the pandemic. It's not realistic to be asking people to also be looking for work. But you do have to certify that you remain unemployed each week. So that's, just want to remind folks that you do have to keep applying every week. But there is no additional step that needs to be taken to get that extra $600 benefit. It should be dispersed concurrently with the earned benefit.
But it could be two different checks, or it could be combined, depending.
It depends on how you get it, but it should be. It may be two line items on your bank account, but it should be at the same time. And if you do receive your unemployment benefits through debit cards, it should be loaded on that debit card, the total amount, including the $600.
Okay, that's good. And unemployment usually, like say, for the traditional unemployment, if you have kids, I think is what, $25 or $50 extra that you may get for your dependents. With this also new website also does the same same kind of guideline?
That I don't know, actually, but I know that the PUA website just released some updated FAQs, so it may be there, or I am happy to follow up with the state to get more information on that. I just don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. As you know, in this kind of age, there may be some people sometimes who don't have access to computers, who don't have access, and then the phone lines are taking too long. Some people may say they have waited for almost all day, and then still they wait and wait, and then the phone dies on them. So they are worried. They don't have the money right now. They're not able to apply, and then if they wait too long, they may not get a retroactive. So for people who don't have computer at home, sometimes, what is it that they can do, or what kind of help or support can be mentioned, I guess?
Yeah, so I believe it's Mass Hire that has phone. You can call the Mass Hire offices to request assistance with filing. You can also call our office, and we'd be happy to, if you've already filed, we're happy to help you get answers from the call center or, one of the customer service reps. If you're not hearing back about your claim, our office is absolutely happy to help try to get you those answers if you're a constituent. I will say, I know that a lot of people are calling in from other states, and we'd be also happy to connect you with your member of Congress if you're not in the 5th Congressional District of Massachusetts.
Okay. So while we're waiting, there is one question that's going to come up. Maybe you can touch up a little bit as a general question. So what does your job, or I know you said it a little bit at the beginning, what does it mean being constituent, or what kind of help someone needs, not only because related to COVID, just in general, if you can give us a job description on how people can reach you and what kind of help can we expect from you?
Yes. So the two best ways to reach us are, one, to call our office at 617-354-0292, or to contact us through our website, which is Catherine Clark, KATHERECLARK.house.gov. And our role is really to be the link for our constituents between them and the federal government, and that takes all kinds of shapes and sizes. As I mentioned previously, we do a lot of constituent casework, trying to help our constituents navigate the federal bureaucracy, whether that's, as I said earlier, immigration benefits, veterans benefits, Social Security, IRS, anything that has to do with a federal agency. We have, we may not be able to get the outcome that you desire, but we can help constituents get answers to questions that can sometimes just really be a kind of a black hole once you send in that application and you're not hearing back. So we can try to kind of untangle that. But right now we're really, we're limited in the in-person community outreach that we can do. We're trying to do a lot of these type of conversations, virtual conversations, to get the information out there about what benefits our constituents are eligible for, how to access them, how to get their questions answered if they have especially complicated circumstances, as well as trying to, get the support for our frontline workers, that, doctors and nurses certainly, but also our first responders, our grocery store workers, our postal workers, home health aides, everybody who is an essential worker during this time. We are working to try to connect folks with resources for PPE, for testing, and also just make sure that the federal government is getting states the resources that they need, and local governments to be able to continue to provide these services for constituents. So it's hard to put the job description into a really concise answer, but anything that has to do with the federal government, any questions, we're here to try to get you those answers.
Yeah, good. I always say, make sure to vote, get involved, ask questions. There's a reason we have elected officials, not only during this kind of time, but even in good time, to be able to get involved and interact. So we have to make sure to do our part by getting involved and asking questions. So thank you for being here. I don't know how to ask this question. Let me just see it. And depending on immigration status, sometimes you may not be allowed or to receive some kind of public assistance. Would there someone who's under applying for immigration or waiting for a green card, can they apply for any kind of this funding, or is there anything that's in place to assist those people who used to work also, but still their immigration status is not fully finalized, I guess?
Yeah, so these benefits should not have any impact on that public charge rule. So, these benefits that people are entitled to do not count as, would not preclude someone from applying for their immigration benefits.
Thank you. And then one person says, do I have to have my 2019 tax done for independent contractor and employment? I don't think unemployment asks for taxes, but.
No, so they'll just ask for your bank statements, 1099, other, pay stubs, just proof of income during 2019.
Okay. So thank you. Once again, we have about 4 minutes left to see how we can touch up with any other questions. So we have people watching. I just want to reiterate a little bit. I am representing the Massachusetts Ethiopian Association, Supports Association here in the Massachusetts. We are here to help you. Mac does right here taking some questions. Any things that we can answer here, we'll gather together and then get it to Kelsey and try to send it to you as an email. Mahadir is here from Connecticut, and Densri is here from New York, and then Hiskel is here from Cincinnati. So we do have a lot of support system out there trying to get information to you to make sure to anything that is allowed, legally that you can participate in. We are here to assist you and support you in all those things. While I'm reading for another questions, if I can give you the floor, anything that we can touch up, anything you want to add as a general advice or any kind of follow-up, I guess.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that Congresswoman Clark is really committed to making sure that we support both your physical health, mental health during this really difficult time, but also your economic health, and making sure that we, come out of this as strong, if not stronger, than when we went in. So we want to hear from you what the reality is on the ground as these benefits are coming from the federal government, sometimes through the states, to communities. We want to hear from you. Where are the gaps? Where are things not working, or where they are working? All of that is really helpful feedback for us. Not only in, hopefully we can help you on an individual level to navigate your individual case, but also just to get that feedback so that we can be the best possible advocates for you and for our district on the federal level. As this is not going to be the last relief effort. I'm hoping that this, latest round of funding does get passed quickly tomorrow so that we can get this money out into these programs quickly. But it's not going to be the last relief package that comes out of this. So we want your ideas. We want to hear your questions. So please do keep in touch. And thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you. So let me ask one more question. We have a little bit of a minute. For education, like loan that people had already, that they can call in their lenders to try to put a loan, hold on that. And then if you can touch up at the same time some kind of protection for someone who lost their job, is not able to pay their rent right now. If you can a little bit of a touch up on those two subjects, please.
Sure. So yes, there's been a pause on federal student loan payments. So there will be no interest accrual on these loans through September 30th. And there will be no forced collections of, like garnishment of wages during this time. So federal student loan borrowers do not need to make those payments during this time. If you have any questions about whether your loan qualifies, please do call I think it's 1-800-1-FED-AID, FEDAID, to make sure that you know what you're eligible for, because I don't want people not making payments on loans that don't qualify. And then the second part of your question, I can't remember.
We didn't have, let's say,
rent.
Out of job right now, rent.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. One is Massachusetts just passed, or the governor just signed into law, a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. And that also includes a ban on landlords issuing notices to quit. So you cannot be evicted for the 4-month period or 45 days after the state of emergency is lifted, depending on which comes first. But that is at least temporary relief for renters and homeowners. Although I do want to just clarify that it's not necessarily a rent freeze. So if you are able to make those payments, I would encourage folks to do so. But it is protection from foreclosure or eviction during that time period. additionally, homeowners with a federal mortgage, so that's any homeowner with an FHA, USDA, VA, or a mortgage that's backed by a federal entity, so Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. This is the majority of mortgages. Those homeowners can request a 6-month forbearance on their mortgage payments. So that's an additional form of relief on the federal government side. And then any renters residing in public or assisted housing, or if you're renting in a home that is whose owner has a federally backed mortgage, you are protected from eviction for 4 months, although that also obviously falls into the state law as well. So
thank you very much. This brings us to our end of the show. Thank you for the Facebook viewers, and also for those who are listening to us on the conference call. Any question that we did not get to answer here, please still send them through the MESA website, and then I'll make sure to get those questions if I need to Kelsey and try to get you the answers. Once again, all I'm going to say, make sure to get involved. That is why we elect officials, and we really thank you for coming in and representing the state and answering the questions that we have here. So we really appreciate that the time that you took, not only for today, whatever time we took to talk between now to prepare for it. So I really appreciate that. So once again, this is Yoftahe Mulatu Gebru from Boston, Massachusetts, representing MESA, Massachusetts Ethiopian Association support. Any question, we are here to help you. I know this is a very difficult time for all of us, something new that none of us have experienced. So be gentle, protect each other, be nice toward each other. This is a time that we can be helpful to each other. And the state, the federal government, the reason that they put the CARES Act is to make sure that they understand a lot of people are going through hardship, to help us through. So make sure to apply on time. If you need help, you can reach us through MESA or the state representative, like Kelsey mentioned. I'll take those information. I'll make sure to post them at the end of the show for people to how to get in touch with them. So once again, thank you, Kelsey. Thank you for our viewers. Until we meet again next time. We have another show that's going to come up Saturday to tell you about how to, about your finances, how to credits. So we will have a good show again on Saturday. So, but until then we meet, I say good night and bless you all. Thank you
very much.